Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Okay, picture this. You know that absolute feeling of dread when your phone buzzes? It's a notification from your banking app, and you kind of already know exactly what it's going to say before you even look at it? Yeah, it's literally like walking into a horror movie you've already seen 100 times. Well, let's dive right into fixing that. You finally pull the Band-Aid off, check your balance, and bam, there it is, $17.42. Just seeing that exact, incredibly low number is totally paralyzing, isn't it? And the absolute worst part is that it always, for sure, seems to happen right when a crisis suddenly hits out of nowhere.
Which brings us to a really tough question we all have to ask ourselves at some point. Are you one random Tuesday away from disaster? Think about it for a second. Your car starts making that weird rattling noise on the highway. Maybe your kid's school sends an email about some unexpected fee, or you get that completely stomach-dropping, "Hey, can we talk?" text from your boss. If you're constantly just crossing your fingers and praying nothing breaks because you simply don't have the cash to fix it, you are definitely in the right place today.
So here's our roadmap. Think of this as your psychological survival guide for getting out of that fear. We're going to cover brains on scarcity mode, the $600 shock absorber, the 60-day sprint, protecting your emergency fund, and finally, how to become unpanickable. Let's get to it.
Starting off with part 1, brains on scarcity mode. Let's look at some data from Bankrate, because it reveals a pretty harsh reality. Roughly 1 out of 4 Americans, that's 24%, have absolutely zero emergency savings. None. So if you're struggling right now, I need you to know you are not alone. It is incredibly common to feel like you're barely keeping your head above water.
And backing that up, the American Psychological Association found that a massive 64% of adults actually cite money as their absolute top source of personal stress. So look, if you feel anxious about money, congratulations, you're extremely normal. Most of us are taught that you build an emergency fund after you get your life together, right? But the truth is, you actually build it so you can get your life together.
But why is saving so incredibly hard when things are tight? Well, it's not a lack of intelligence, it's literally just your biological wiring. We call this scarcity mode. Basically, this happens when your brain is wired for survival today rather than stability later. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, your brain is fundamentally forced into this hyper-focused, sort of tunnel vision state just to get by.
And this scarcity node, it forces you into 3 distinct behaviors. First, you focus heavily on immediate problems, like how on earth to pay today's electric bill. Second, you completely ignore future risks, simply because your brain literally doesn't have the bandwidth to worry about next month. And third, you start grabbing little comfort purchases out of pure stress. Telling someone in this state to just save 20% of your income is honestly like telling someone who's drowning to simply try swimming better. It doesn't work. If this sounds like you, please let go of the guilt right now. It is just biology.
All right, moving to part 2, the $600 shock absorber.
We often get this idea that you need a perfect, massive $10,000 fund before you can actually feel safe. And yeah, that is super intimidating. But a smaller buffer, say around $300 to $1,000, that is highly actionable and genuinely life-changing. Why? Because it stops the financial domino effect dead in its tracks. It stops one unexpected bill from spiraling into overdraft fees, credit card interest, borrowing from friends, and terrible panic decisions. This smaller fund acts as an immediate shock absorber for your life.
So, what's our target for this explainer? $600 in 60 days. It's big enough to handle most random Tuesday problems, but small enough that you can actually hit it without feeling overwhelmed. And let's break down that intimidating math for a second. $600 in 60 days is just $10 a day. That's it, just 10 bucks.
Which leads us perfectly into part 3, this 60-day sprint.
Here is the core 4-pillar framework we're going to use for this sprint. We are going to separate, stabilize, squeeze, and supplement. Essentially, we aren't going to suffer to find this $10 a day. We're mixing some simple math with a little bit of psychology to build a behavior machine.
Step 1 is separate. You absolutely have to stop saving in the same place you spend. Day 1 isn't even about finding the money, it's about separation. If your emergency fund is just sitting there, completely visible in your main checking account, your brain treats it as available cash. It turns into a snack fund. So you need to open a separate savings account today and automate a tiny transfer right after payday. If you rely on just saving whatever happens to be left at the end of the month, spoiler alert, you're going to save nothing. Willpower is not a reliable strategy, your environment is.
Next up, we squeeze out the leaks using the 3-category check audit. Look, most people don't actually have a massive budget problem, they have a leak problem. You know those small, emotionally justified expenses? If you categorize your last 14 days of spending into musts, like rent, maybes, like takeout, and messes, like random convenience store snacks, the leaks become super obvious. Cutting just $24 a week from takeout and $27 from convenience store snacks adds up to $51 a week. Over 8 weeks, that's over $400. See how fast those little leaks can fund your shock absorber without you even having to starve?
Now we are going to dramatically speed things up and hunt for your first $100 because your brain needs proof and it needs momentum. Here are some rapid-fire, highly tactical moves you can make this week. First, go cancel one forgotten subscription. Even $10 a month matters here. Second, enforce a strict 48-hour pause rule on all non-essential purchases to break that immediate impulse loop. Third, sell one dusty item this weekend. Old headphones, sneakers, literally anything collecting dust. Remember, we aren't building your ego, we're building your fund. And fourth, pick 6 predictable, cheap default meals that you can easily repeat to avoid the decision fatigue that almost always leads to expensive takeout.
Okay, part 4, protecting your emergency fund.
Once you've got the cash building up, we have to protect it from emotional spending. We do this by introducing the emergency definition rule. You have to establish crystal clear boundaries on what this money is actually allowed to be used for. A real emergency threatens your basic life needs. We're talking health, housing, transportation, or income. It is absolutely not a flash sale, a weekend vacation, boredom, or just having a really bad Tuesday. Seriously, write this definition down in your notes app right now so you don't forget it.
And this right here is absolutely critical to keeping your progress going. The replace first rule. If you use it, you must refill it immediately. Say you have to pull $120 out for a real crisis. Well, your next financial goal isn't buying something new, it's replacing that $120 first. This is what ensures the fund actually stays alive, rather than slowly bleeding to death after a setback or two.
Finally, Part 5, How to Become Unpanicable.
I want to tell you about a real person named Maya to show you the emotional payoff of this 60-day sprint. Maya wasn't careless with her money. She was just stuck. Every single month was tight, and she had previously failed at strict, complicated budgeting. But she gave this framework a shot. Look at her results. She opened a separate account, set up a tiny $5 a day auto transfer, cut just 2 small subscriptions, and picked up 1 weekend gig. By day 30, she had easily saved $320. And it happened just in time for her car to need a repair. Instead of putting it on a credit card with 24% interest and suffering through 6 months of misery, she just paid cash.
And this quote from Maya perfectly captures the entire point of this explainer. She said, "It wasn't the $320, it was knowing I could handle life." Man, that is so powerful, isn't it? The true return on investment isn't just the cash sitting in the bank, it's the psychological relief. It is the feeling of becoming completely unpanicable. So, here are your immediate, no-fluff marching orders for your Day 1 action plan. Most people fail financially simply because they wait until they feel ready. Don't wait. Action 1. Open that separate account today. Action 2. Set the smallest auto transfer you can handle, even if it's literally just $3 a day right after payday. And Action 3. Find one fast win for your first $100 right now. Go sell something or cancel a subscription today. Which leaves us with one final provocative thought. An emergency fund is basic protection. It's exactly like wearing a seatbelt. You don't wait until you're in a crash to decide you should have put it on, right? So, will you keep hoping nothing breaks, or will you handle next Tuesday? The choice is completely up to you. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really can't wait to see your results. Get out there and start sprinting.
NextGen Hustle. Like, share, subscribe.